Yes.
It was the hot mic heard around the hockey world. Tim Peel, basically during the Nashville-Detroit game, if we have the clip,
Yep.
let's hear it.
I think this was from Tuesday, right?
Yes. Yes, this was from Tuesday. We were on air during this happened, so we talked a little bit about this. But here we go.
Nashville early in the it wasn't much, but I wanted to get a fucking penalty against Nashville early in the
There we go. And Tim Peel is no longer reffing games in the National Hockey League. I'm not going to say that he was fired because the statement didn't say he was fired, so I can't use that word. So I'm not going to use it for now. We'll start here with Tyler, our resident referee. We'll get his perspective, and then we have two players and former hockey players in this that will probably have a very good perspective on this as well. So this will be a very interesting conversation. Maybe Where's Chris's mead popcorn?
Oh dear. Well, so I mean, I will use the word fired for all intents and purposes. He was fired. I mean, he's not going to get to finish out the season. He's not going to have his farewell final game send off that we typically see for retiring referees, et cetera, et cetera. This is a double whammy. It's not just that Tim Peel was caught on a hot mic suggesting that there may be some issues with integrity in his officiating, but also dropping a fairly hefty F-bomb on a television broadcast wasn't seen very favorably either, I'm sure, by the league. So a few things, and of course, lots of people have talked about this already. I mean, makeup calls, they shouldn't happen in hockey, but they do. It's always been like that. And I think what was really telling was hearing from a lot of current and former players come out and weigh in on this, and they all seem, the general theme there seemed to be people feeling bad for Tim Peel, that he was kind of, caught with the mic. And the NHL's reaction is about what you'd expect. Just throw a guy under the bus and, nothing more to see here. Let's move along, everybody. And that, if you're one of these idealistic types that think that the league's going to look at this and now, address their issues with officiating, I mean, that's silly. That's not going to happen. It's going to continue being the way that it is. And that is trending the wrong way. Last night on Hockey Night in Canada, I was really glad when Jennifer Botterill pointed out that the pipeline of officials coming up through the ranks is not a big one. It's getting smaller and smaller. I don't think fans should expect it to get better anytime soon, because you've got, the level of play going this way, and you've got the depth of officiating going the other way. So I don't know where it goes from here. More use of video. I don't like that idea. I didn't mind Rob Brindamore's idea of kind of having the eye in the sky type of, helper. I don't know how exactly that would work, but it's something that the CFL had been doing, where they have the all 22 camera and somebody kind of monitoring things there and correcting like where the ball gets spotted and so on. So there's some help for the referees in that league. Maybe something can be employed in the NHL. Now, on the topic of game management, for me and for amateur referees, we're taught that game management is about, managing the conflict and the emotion in the game. If you've got a lopsided score and you've got a few minutes left, you could look at that like, okay, now you're refereeing to the situation. But let's say my team has a 6-goal lead and I go in and spray the goalie on a stoppage. I mean, even if it's light, if the referee calls the penalty there, that's game management, right? Like, that is ensuring that the game doesn't get out of control. It's not trying to influence the outcome. It's not trying to balance the penalty minute total. It's not, tearing 6 pages out of the rule book each time 2 minutes flies by, right? Like the NHL's version of game management, we don't know what it is. We can speculate, but it sure feels like they want the referees to do situational officiating. They want it, they want a certain amount of power plays. They seem to want a certain balance between the teams. They want different levels of enforcement depending on the time and the score. You see in the playoffs, the rule book suddenly gets a lot smaller, and then when you get into overtime, you damn near have to kill somebody to get a penalty or take a non-discretionary call like shooting the puck over the glass. So that frustrates. I think all the players want is just within a game, an infraction in the first 2 minutes to be the same as an infraction in the final 2 minutes. And the NHL could fix that, but they don't seemingly want to. They want to have situational officiating, and there's no, you never get to hear from the refs in the media. You got Colin Campbell, who, I mean, is long past his best before date. I think he's a big problem in all of this. But the buck stops with Gary Bettman. I mean, if Colin Campbell were to resign and say, I don't want to do this anymore, they'll just install somebody else with the old school ideas and somebody that supports, situational officiating. So unfortunately for Tim Peel, he's made out to be an easy fall guy, and he's somebody that's not well liked amongst the fans. And it does make you wonder, if this happened to Wes McCauley, would he be afforded more slack?
Sean?
Yeah, Tyler, what Tyler said there makes a lot of sense. I don't like the cries and calls for call it by the rule book. I think it's the way hockey is. It's too fast. It's too random. You're not going to get everything. And if you do, it's going to be power play after 4-on-4 after power play all game. You're not going to have 5-on-5 hockey at all. I think you just need to find a standard and stick to it, whether it is the first period of the game or the third period of the game or overtime, or it's the beginning of this regular season or the playoffs. I want a standard. I want them to stick to it. I do not like the situational game management style of officiating that the NHL is allowing the refs to do or promoting the refs to do, because I think it brings up way too much controversy and way too much. I don't know what the hell a penalty is.
Mm-hmm.
It's just they're going to make mistakes. I get that, and when you make a mistake, you want to make up for it. But when you say blatantly to either your partner, your officiating partner, or the team, or one of the that you wanted to get a penalty against that team, that just does not look good. And no matter how innocent the actual intent was, and I don't think that Tim Peel was like, oh, I have to get Nashville a penalty here because of I don't like Nashville or I don't like this person, whatever. It was literally just he probably messed up a call earlier in the game and wanted to quote unquote make it up. He said the unsaid thing.
Yeah,
and
the way it appeared is that he had called a marginal penalty against Detroit in the first period. The Predators scored on the power play, and so now he's looking at it like he has to fix that. And trust me, in BC hockey and the clinics I've been involved in instructing, we emphasize that two wrongs do not make a right when it comes to officiating. People have asked me too. Looking forward to doing, say, a Terrace River Kings game. What are you expecting for the game? What are your thoughts? It's like, well, I'm just going to try and get all the calls right, so, but if you make one wrong, it doesn't mean then you start, sort of engineering it to get back on track. Just worry about getting the next one right. And, Tim Peel revealed to everybody that that's not how it works in their league.
And you're right. Two wrongs don't make a right, and that's the problem with the situational officiating that the NHL is allowing or promoting within their league. Is that is the approach? Two wrongs make a right. Yeah, I messed up a call here. I'm going to do a make-up call here. If you watch a game, how many times do you actually say, "Oh, well, that was a make-up call"?
Yeah, I mean, it's almost a nightly thing, right?
But again, like what I don't like about the conversation and narrative that has happened out of this is that people are okay with that.
Yeah, see, like, I would be more of a supporter of just letting the referees apply the rule book, but that is, does that mean we're going to get games called like in the World Juniors when they're held in Europe, because that's not an entertaining product to watch, right? I mean, even this year, and again, I don't know if it's a directive that the NHL wants more power plays because it's kind of lifeless to watch on TV without fans. But there is a lot of like taps that are called for slashing and some stuff that it's so head scratching that it benefits your team, and you're looking at the replay going, really, guys, are you sure about that one? Like, so I don't know. I don't think you need to have strict 100% enforcement of the rule book, but whatever level of enforcement needs to stay the same from start to finish. I'll give you an example. Thursday night, the Ottawa Toronto game, blatant trip right in front of the referee. Wayne Simmons losing it. I mean, don't read lips, kids. You can hear what he was saying to the refs from across the ice. And then somebody's over there at the referee crease talking about it, and here's the referee covering his microphone. I mean, what are we hiding here, guys? It just didn't feel like calling it, basically, is the only conclusion you can make, because it was 2-2 and it was almost, the end of the third period. And it's exasperating.
When you hear the statements and saying that the refs don't want to make a call that affects the game, those non-calls affect the game too.
Yeah. Yeah.
If it's a penalty, call the penalty. If you see someone get tripped, call the trip.
I have this frustration when I play rec hockey too. There's nights where it feels like the guys are there and they want to make the easy calls, but the job is to make all of the calls or non-calls. It's to your job is to regulate the game. You're the one with the whistle, right? Like, so this idea that you're just going to stand back and hope that everybody plays by the rules is just craziness. That doesn't even work in beer leagues.
You said it. You said the word right there, Tyler. It's entertainment. This is entertainment, and high-scoring games are entertaining. If you're a player, you're depending on which way it's going. If it's going for your team, you're not going to say a damn thing, and if it's going against you, then you want more fairness. Having the consistency is what you're looking for within a referee, and maintaining level heads and making sure the game doesn't get out of hand. But entertainment is the number one thing that the NHL is looking for, and situational. It's a balance between the two of them. At the beginning of the game, you're kind of. If I was a ref, I'd be feeling out the game, seeing what's happening, and if it's going to be a hit fest. And if both teams are willing and able to do it, let them play, let them go. But if it is a penalty, call the penalty. It's very unfortunate that Tim Peel went out the way that he did. And who knows if he's like, it's kind of funny the way I went out, because I heard that he was going to be retiring at the end of the year anyway. So I think it was just kind of one of those things where it's like, okay, well, happy retirement. But you really just kind of, if you're him and you've been in the league as long as you have, you just got to take it with a grain of salt, laugh about it, and kind of move on with your life a little bit. It's very unfortunate you don't get the recognition because those old school referees and linesmen always get the little tribute on their last game from the players and from the broadcast crew too. So it's unfortunate that it went out that way, but overall you just kind of you want consistency. You want to make sure that the game is entertaining, but you kind of, it's a balance between the two, really.
Just in regards to Tim Peel's resume, did not work a Stanley Cup final. So let's be clear. I mean, he's not in the top tier of NHL officials, but had a very long career. Did work the Sochi Olympics. I think an All-Star game. And so he had a fairly distinguished career as an NHL official. I suspect this is not the first time he's annoyed the league with things that he's done. There was the somewhat famous night out at the bar with Greg Wyshynski that was documented. I don't think the league cared for that very much. Although in that interview, we found that Tim was a very self-deprecating guy. So I think everything you said there, Devin, I think that's quite likely that he would take that kind of view on it. Now where do we go from here? Some people have suggested that the NHL had to do something because they want to get into gambling and they had to snuff out this perception issue. Well, boy, I don't know if you want to have situational officiating to keep the entertainment value up. That doesn't really work with, you know, the idea of a totally squeaky clean, fair, air quotes fair game. Well, it'll be interesting to see where it goes from here for sure.
So, well, I guess just before I give my thoughts here, what line is Tim Peel on there? Is he on the first line, second line, third line, a fourth line of officials?
This is the Kevin Bieksa
Yeah.
analogy that he used last night. I would say at least third line. I mean, you still got a lot of inexperienced guys that are being forced into action, and especially this year too, because of the border, and don't have the officials crossing the border. You've had, there's injuries. Now they've punted one guy early here, so now you got some more games to fill. And Ron McLean kind of hinted at this in regards to Dan O'Halloran. He didn't really explain it very well, but Dan O'Halloran was one of the referees in that a couple playoffs ago where they had the phantom major penalty call against Vegas in Game 7 with San Jose. And the Sharks ended up coming back and winning that Game 7, and then Dan O'Halloran was cut for the rest of the playoffs. And then it kind of, the officiating kind of was shaky through the second and third rounds because you lost a couple of experienced guys there, right? Because of one bad call. In fact, it was such a moment that they then gave the referees the ability to review major penalty calls. So you do have to, on that point, you do have to be careful that you don't knee-jerk react to one mistake and lose experienced officials, because the guys coming through the pipeline, I mean, they're great guys, I'm sure, and are trying their best, but there's no substitute for experience.
Yeah. I think what everybody wants is consistency. And I think that this is the biggest problem. And this isn't a new thing in 2021. This has been happening for as long as I've watched hockey anyway. It's been something that we've been fighting and battling with. A penalty in the first is not the same as the penalty in the third, and that happens in the playoffs. And I think that's the part that's deeply frustrating to watch. And I think that as fans, we let our emotions get involved in this conversation. And I'm not saying that that's right or wrong. Even last night, I mean, there was talk about the Oilers-Leafs game that there was a missed call on Zach Kassian for interference during that game. There was a lot of Oiler fans upset about that. I think if this is the problem, like if you want this game management thing, I'm going to take you back to 1992. Game 6, the Toronto Maple Leafs and the Los Angeles Kings. Wayne Gretzky high sticks Doug Gilmour. Doug Gilmour is bleeding. That was an automatic 5 in a game. That was not called. What did Wayne Gretzky do? He scored the goal in overtime, went to Game 7. The Kings went on to win the Stanley Cup, or to get to the Stanley Cup final. Sorry, The Canadiens won.
Yeah.
If that's what and Kerry Fraser has admitted time and again, he should have called the referee. He should have called high sticking there. That it's the consistency to me. That there's two things that it has to be consistent, and it's just simply. And I think this is where the NHL is behind at least the NBA and the NFL. I'm not going to say they're behind the MLB on this for sure, but the NFL, for all of their faults, a pass interference penalty is a pass interference penalty no matter what quarter it is. And a foul is a foul no matter what quarter it is in the NBA. And that's where I think this is the biggest problem, is it's not consistent. And the fans are asking.
And we've seen many examples of this. Remember the foot in the crease era?
Yep.
Suddenly that wasn't an infraction, apparently, when Brett Hull put the potential clinching goal in against Buffalo, right? That's one example. The Kerry Fraser thing you bring up, I mean, I think is another good example of situational officiating. The situation said that we can't have a call here, so he didn't call it. And then the way the game unfolded and the series unfolded afterwards, now he feels the regret of not calling the penalty. Well, why is it like this in the first place? Just call the penalty. Have some stones.
Yeah, and that's. And that's part of the problem is and I think what Ray Ferraro said was best when he said that the league doesn't back up the officials.
No, and so it's easy for them to take the easy route out then, right? In that case.
Yeah.
The league doesn't back the officials, but the
So-
other thing is we need to have the officials be able to come out and explain what happened sometimes. Not all the time. There's a lot of time where it's just a blatant mistake, whatever, they missed it. Deal with it. But there's some times where I think if they come out and explain their thought process, it would quell so much of the upset fans go after the game, because you have the refs communicating to us why they made that call.
And I think quite a number of them would be happy to do that too.
And you can do it where it's a controlled one. You don't have to send them to the wolves and the media. You have them put out a statement. You have them go to the mic and say, we're making this statement about this call, and then you go, and then they walk off. Like, you don't. I don't think you should let the wolves at them, let the media at them, but I think they should be at least out there to explain themselves at times.